this story?
Yes.
We're going to read The King's Stilts by Dr. Seuss.
What's that?
Those are called stilts. It's for making yourself taller.
What's this? Iced coffee.
Now that's Daddy's tea. All right.
What's this?
That's his stilts.
Is it the stick?
That's right. Are you ready?
What's this? Is it the other stick?
That's right. There's 2 sticks. Here we go.
He's playing it. Where's the king? It's the king, Daddy.
Naturally,
Where's the king?
the king never wore his stilts during business
Where's
hours.
the king?
He's on the next page. When King Bertram worked, he really worked, and his stilts stood forgotten in the tall stilt closet in the castle's front hallway. There was so much work to be done in the kingdom of Bin that King Bertram had to get up every morning at 5. Long before the townsfolk and the farmers were awake, the king was splashing away in his bath. It was right there, in fact, that his day's work began. With his left hand, he could bathe with his royal bath brush, but his right hand he always had to keep dry for signing the important papers of state. Eric,
The king take his bath.
that's right, just like you. Eric, his page boy, brought in these papers on a big silver tray. He stood at attention at the foot of the tub while old Lord Droon took the papers one by one and held them over the water for His Majesty to sign. Sign here,
1, 2,
sign there, old Droon would say.
4, 5, 6,
And hurry, there's hundreds more to come.
9, 10, 21.
Then at breakfast, the king cut and buttered his toast with his left hand. With his right, he kept signing royal orders and decrees. That's right, there's 30 lines. But by 7 every morning, the king had already finished more business than most kings had done in a month. He had to get all this done before 7, for that was the hour when the king, his big work commenced, the most difficult and important work in the whole kingdom of Bin. This was the work of caring for the mighty dike trees that protected the people of the Bin from sea. The sea pushed against the kingdom on 3 sides. The kingdom was a low one and the sea was a high one. Only the dike trees kept the sea from pouring in. They grew so close together in the row along the shore.
What's that?
Oh, that's a castle. That they held back the water with their heavy knotted roots.
What's that?
That's the village. But to keep these trees strong and sturdy was not an easy task. They were more spicy than pine trees and the roots were very tasty to a certain sort of bird. This was the kind of a giant blackbird with a sharp and pointed beak.
Tasty.
The roots were tasty. See? The nizzards, they were called by the people of Bin. These nizzards were always flying about over the trees of Bins,
That.
waiting for a chance to swoop.
What's that?
That's a fish. Swoop down and peck. If nobody stopped them, the roots would soon give way. Then the sea would pour in with a terrible roar, and every last soul in the kingdom of Bin would drown.
That.
That's a boat. But King Bertram did not permit this to happen. He had gathered together in his kingdom the largest and smartest cats in all the world, and he trained them to chase the nizzards away. These cats were called patrol cats and wore badges that said PC. Everything in Bin, said King Bertram, depends on our patrol cats. They are more important than our army, our navy, and our fire department too, for they keep the nizzards away from the dike trees, and the dike trees keep the ocean back out of our land. 1,000 cats in all. They divided up the work, 500 by day, 500 by night.
Lemmy.
At 7 every morning came the changing of the cat guard. At the sound of the trumpet, the king left breakfast and mounted his horse for the daily review. Fresh, brisk, and well-fed, the 500 day cats marched past him towards the dike trees to take up their watch. At the same time, the night cats, muddy, tired, and hungry, headed home to their kennels for their 12 hours rest.
Nobody can sit here
Okay.
if he wants.
Well, I'm sure he wants to. There was rest for the cats. There was none for the king. He took every minute of his morning to see that they were given the very best of care.
It's the cats, look! What's that?
They're marching cats. The huts they slept in must be kept clean and tidy.
What's this?
Each cat must be brushed and his whiskers trimmed just so. It's a marching band. The cat kitchen was even bigger and grander than the king's. And the cooks who did the cooking were the chief cooks in the land.
What's that?
It's a cat.
Is it a cat?
It's a cat army. Your Majesty, the chief in charge of fish would always say, tell us you think the food we feed our cats is perfect. And the king would look over the huge wet baskets of fish, choosing only the finest and the freshest to serve his patrol cats. So in the morning, then all afternoon, both in winter and summer, the king made his rounds by the edge of the sea. Every root of every dike tree he inspected every day. But finally at 5 o'clock, the great task was finished. The king then smiled. A hard day, he'd say, full of nizzardly worries. A long day, he'd say. Now it's time for some fun. This was the moment the King Bertram lived for. When he worked, he really worked. But when he played, he really played. Quick, Eric, he'd shout. Quick, Eric, the stilts. Down the slope from the dike trees, away from all the troubles, the king and Eric would race like two boys.
He's looking for his cat.
He's inspecting the trees. So they'd race like two boys, straight to the tall stilt closet in the king's front hallway. Out came the stilts, up leapt the king. High in the air, his royal robe streaming, he'd race through the marble halls.
He can go me.
We'll find out. Looks like he's going to the next page. Up and up, and down the garden stairs, black spotted coach dogs barked and romped beside him, nipping at the heels of his flashing red stilts. The townsfolk looked on from the walls and just loved it. A grown-up king on stilts, they'd say. It does look rather strange, but it's hard work being a king, and he does his work well. If he wants to have a bit of fun, well, sure. Let him have it.
What's that?
Those are stairs. But there was one man in the bin who did not like fun. He did not like games. He did not like laughing. The man was a scowler. This man was Lord Droon. Laughing spoils the shape of the face, he declared.
What is face?
Look at his face. He's so funny. The lines of the corners of the mouth should go down.
What's down?
Like this. No frown. Every afternoon, when the stilt hour drew near, Lord Droon would slink away to his room in the northwest tower and sulk.
Where's the pet?
The pet? I don't know. We'll find out on the next page. Such carryings on, he would mutter in disgust as he spied the king from his window. Look at his crown bouncing up and down on the side of his head. Look at his beard flapping in the wind. Look at him laughing.
What is the beard? What?
This. See? Right in broad daylight in front of the town folk.
Right.
Right? It's the light. I must do something about this. And
What
one
is
day
something?
he
What's
did.
something?
Oh, you're just asking everything now. Look at the words, okay? Follow along. Sit up here. Sit.
Okay.
I'll point to them, okay? One Wednesday, just before supper, when he thought the king was out, Lord Droon tiptoed down to the front hall. The guards at their posts were dozing, without the smallest sound on the hard stone floor.
What is potato?
Droon crept to the stilt closet.
What is script?
Crept? It's moving very slowly. Pulled back the ancient door and reached in. It only took a second. He had the King's Stilts. He unbuttoned the top of his robe and shoved them down inside. Then he sneaked past the guards again and slipped through the door. Oh, look, what's going to happen?
He's going.
Down the steep, slanting stairway,
Oh, he's going down.
Lord Drood marched
He's going down. He's going down.
down to the furnace to burn them.
Oh, he's down.
This is the end of the cool
He's
and
going
foolish
down.
stilt
He's
walking.
going
He
down.
mumbled to himself. That's right. Then suddenly, from around the bend of the stairs below came the sound of happy whistling. It's the king. Lord Droon stopped, still, frozen with fright. He tugged and pulled at his long flowing gown, struggling to cover the stilts, but he couldn't. The ends were too long and stuck out. Droon, Droon, gasped Lord Droon. You'll be caught.
So what is True?
Droon? That's his name. He's talking to himself. He turned and fled back up the stairway.
What's that?
That's the king. Nearer and nearer came the king. That's the king. But Droon couldn't climb any faster. The stilts clattered.
The king come out.
That's right. They banged and spanked against his knees. He looked up and saw a window. Stepping up to it quickly, he poked his head out and looked into an alley. A small boy was passing. Hey, get back here.
What's that sound?
That's Renee. It was Eric, the page boy. Psst. You. Hissed Lord Droon. Eric looked up, astonished. Yes, sir? He bowed politely. Take these stilts.
What is yes, sir?
That's what Dorothy said. Take these stilts, commanded Lord Droon. Take them away. Bury them deep, where no one can ever find them. Bury them up by the sea, by the dike trees. Lord Droon flung the stilts from the window.
Twice?
Tomorrow.
Remember?
The King's Stilts? Bury them? Eric didn't know what to think. It will spoil all His Majesty's fun, he stammered. You impudent. All right. To be continued.